When the first alien ship arrived at Earth's doorstep, humanity thought they were finally joining a cosmic community of enlightened beings. What they discovered instead was that the galaxy operated on a simple principle: the strong devour the weak, and humans were considered the weakest prey of all. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained perfect order through fear, subjugation, and the complete destruction of any species that dared to resist. 1,200 civilizations bowed their heads and paid tribute to the ruling caste. Not one had ever successfully challenged the system. Earth was meant to be unlucky number 1301. But humanity had something the galaxy had never encountered before, something so alien to their understanding that it would shatter every assumption they held about power, survival, and what it truly means to be apex predators in the cosmic food chain. When Earth refused to kneel, when humans did the one thing no species had ever attempted in galactic history, the Council made a fatal miscalculation. They thought they were dealing with just another primitive world. They were wrong. What humanity did next would echo across every star system, every space station, and every throne room from the galactic core to the outer rim. The galaxy closed ranks to crush the human threat, deploying fleets that could crack planets and weapons that could sterilize star systems. It wasn't enough. This is the story of how a species written off as weak, primitive, and expendable taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. This is the story of Earth's unthinkable response to cosmic tyranny, and why the mere mention of humanity now sends shivers through the spines of creatures that once considered themselves gods among the stars. Admiral Sarah Chun watched the massive alien vessel materialize in Earth's outer solar system with a mixture of awe and dread. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever conceived, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself, stretching nearly 50 kilometers from bow to stern. Its surface rippled with patterns that hurt to look at directly, as if the very geometry defied human understanding. "Contact established, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Morrison from the communications station. "They're transmitting on multiple frequencies. Universal translators are working overtime, but we're getting coherent messages." Chen nodded, her weathered hands gripping the armrests of her command chair aboard the Earth Defense Force flagship Defiance. At 62, she had commanded everything from submarine patrols to space stations, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. First contact with an alien civilization, the dream of every human since they first looked up at the stars. "Put them through," she ordered, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. The main view screen flickered, and, suddenly, Chen was face to face with something that made her skin crawl. The alien appeared vaguely humanoid, but wrong in every conceivable way. Its skin was translucent, revealing a network of pulsing vessels beneath. Four arms sprouted from its torso, each ending in delicate, surgical fingers. Most unsettling were its eyes, compound structures that seemed to catalog every detail of the bridge with mechanical precision. "Greetings, primitive species." The being spoke, its voice a harmonious chorus that somehow conveyed condescension. "I am Executor Vex High of the Galactic Council. Your species has finally achieved sufficient technological advancement to warrant our attention." Chun felt her jaw tighten at the word primitive, but maintained her diplomatic composure. "Welcome to the Sol System, Executor. I am Admiral Sarah Chun, representing the United Earth Defense Force. We're honored by your visit and eager to establish peaceful relations." The alien's compound eyes seemed to glitter with amusement. "Peaceful relations? How quaint. You misunderstand the nature of this encounter, Admiral Chun. This is not a diplomatic mission. This is integration processing." "Integration processing?" Chun repeated, feeling ice form in her stomach. "Indeed. Your species will now join the Galactic Order as a Category 7 serval species. Your planet's resources will be cataloged and harvested according to Council directives. Your population will be relocated to designated work colonies throughout the galaxy. Compliance is not optional." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics. Chen could feel the eyes of her crew upon her, waiting for her response to what had just been revealed as humanity's death sentence. "I'm sorry," Chen said carefully, "but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Earth is a sovereign world. We're not interested in becoming servants to anyone. Vexhi's multiple arms gestured in what might have been the alien equivalent of a dismissive wave. Sovereignty is a concept that applies only to species capable of defending themselves against council enforcement. Your primitive weapons and laughably small fleet hardly qualify. Chen leaned forward in her chair. You might be surprised by what we're capable of defending ourselves against. Admiral, Vexhi continued, ignoring her comment. Perhaps a demonstration of council power will help you understand the futility of resistance. Observe. The view screen shifted to show Earth's moon. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a lance of brilliant blue energy erupted from the alien vessel, crossing the void in seconds. When it struck the lunar surface, a massive crater simply ceased to exist, leaving behind a perfectly spherical void 30 kilometers across. Chun felt her blood turn to ice water. That demonstration had just erased several of Earth's research stations and mining facilities, along with nearly 3,000 people. That was set to 1,000th power, Vexhi explained casually. Full power would have cracked your moon in half. We have 200 vessels of similar capability en route to your system. They will arrive in 72 of your hours to begin integration processing. The alien paused, studying Chen's reaction with those horrible compound eyes. I suggest you use this time to prepare your population for relocation. Resistance will only increase casualties. Chen stood slowly, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of every human who had ever refused to bow to tyranny. Executor Vexhi, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say, and I want you to transmit it to every member of your Galactic Council. The alien tilted its head in curiosity. You wish to surrender formally? That is deficient. No, Chen replied, her voice deadly quiet. I want you to know that in 72 hours, when your fleet arrives, you're going to discover something about humanity that your council has never encountered before. Vexhi's amusement was evident in its harmonious voice. And what might that be, Admiral? Chen's lips curved into a smile that would have made a predator proud. We don't integrate. We don't serve. And we sure as hell don't relocate. What we do is fight. And when we fight, we win. The alien's compound eyes seemed to focus more intently on her. Admiral, your species hasn't even achieved faster-than-light travel independently. Your weapons are chemical propulsion and primitive energy systems. You couldn't possibly. 72 hours, Executor, Chen interrupted. When your fleet arrives, they're going to learn why every predator on our planet eventually learned to avoid humans. We didn't climb to the top of Earth's food chain by being reasonable. She turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Morrison, open a channel to all Earth Defense Force vessels and planetary defense installations. Channel open, Admiral. Chen's voice rang out across every human military facility on Earth and in orbit. This is Admiral Chun. As of this moment, Earth is at war. I'm declaring Protocol 7. All stopgap measures are lifted. Authorization, Chen Alpha 779. Morrison's face went pale. Protocol 7 was the code that had never been used, never even been spoken aloud outside of the most classified briefings. It meant that every experimental weapon, every theoretical technology, every dangerous prototype that had been locked away as too risky for peacetime deployment was now authorized for immediate use. Vexhi seemed to sense the change in atmosphere on the bridge. Admiral, what is this Protocol 7? Chen turned back to face the alien, and her smile had become something truly frightening. It's what we humans call taking the safety off. For the last 2 centuries, our military has been bound by treaties, ethics committees, and international law. We've had weapons locked away because they were considered too inhumane for use against other humans. She paused, letting that sink in. But you're not human, are you? The transmission ended abruptly as Chun ordered the connection severed. On the view screen, Vexhi's ship began to withdraw toward the edge of the system, but not before launching a dozen small reconnaissance drones toward Earth. Admiral, called out Commander Rodriguez from the tactical station, we're receiving priority transmissions from Luna Base 7, Mars Defense Command, and the Asteroid Belt Mining Consortium. They're all requesting immediate implementation of the blackout protocols. Chen nodded grimly. The blackout protocols were the logical extension of Protocol 7, a complete communications and sensor blackout that would hide Earth's preparations from alien surveillance. For the next 72 hours, Earth would be invisible to outside observation. Grant all requests, she ordered. And get me Director Hawthorne at the Shadow Projects Division. Minutes later, a secure channel opened to reveal Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne, a woman in her 50s whose unassuming appearance belied her role as overseer of humanity's most classified weapons research. Admiral, Hawthorne said without preamble, I've been monitoring the situation. Protocol 7 has been implemented across all my facilities. We're dusting off some very interesting toys. How interesting? Chen asked. Hawthorne's smile was cold and professional. Remember the Soul Accords of 2157? The ones that banned development of self-replicating weapons systems. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The Soul Accords exist for a reason, Elizabeth. Those weapons are too dangerous for use against humans, Hawthorne finished. But, as you pointed out to our new alien friend, they're not human. The swarm protocols have been activated. We'll have the first-generation units ready for deployment in 60 hours. Chen closed her eyes for a moment, thinking about what they were unleashing. The self-replicating weapons systems banned by the Soul Accords were designed to consume enemy technology and reproduce themselves exponentially. They had been locked away because of their potential to consume all technology on a planet if left unchecked. What about the Prometheus project? Chen asked. Already being deployed. The fusion torpedoes are being mounted on everything we can get into space. And Admiral, Hawthorne paused, her expression growing serious. I've authorized activation of the Lazarus Protocol. Chen felt her breath catch. Lazarus was the theoretical framework for uploading human consciousness into combat AI systems, creating digital soldiers that couldn't be killed in any conventional sense. The technology had been banned as a violation of human dignity. Elizabeth, are you sure about this? If we cross these lines, Admiral, Hawthorne interrupted. They just murdered 3,000 of our people as a demonstration. They're planning to enslave our entire species. I think the time for moral hand-wringing has passed. Chen nodded slowly. You're right. Deploy everything. But, Elizabeth. Yes, Admiral. Make sure our new friends understand that we gave them a chance to leave peacefully. What happens next is on them. As the channel closed, Chen turned to address her bridge crew. Every face showed the same mixture of determination and fear. They were about to cross lines that humanity had sworn never to cross, unleash weapons they had promised never to build, and fight a war against an enemy that considered them primitive insects. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen announced, in approximately 70 hours, a Galactic Council fleet is going to arrive expecting to find a broken, demoralized species ready for processing. Instead, they're going to find something that will give their nightmares. She moved to the observation deck, looking out at Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Soon, that beautiful world would be transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before, a planet at war not just for its survival, but for its right to exist as a free species. Behind her, the bridge hummed with activity as orders went out across the solar system. In hidden facilities on Earth's moon, weapons that had never been tested outside of computer simulations were being armed and targeted. In the asteroid belt, mining ships were being retrofitted with systems that turned them into mobile weapon platforms. On Mars, the terraforming equipment was being converted into the largest weapons manufacturing facility in human history. And somewhere in the outer solar system, Executor Vexhi's ship continued its withdrawal, completely unaware that humanity had just declared total war on the very concept of galactic servitude. The 72-hour countdown had begun, and Earth was preparing to do the unthinkable, show the galaxy what happened when you tried to cage a species that had spent millions of years learning to hunt things bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than themselves. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were called the apex predators of Earth, and why Earth had never been conquered by anyone or anything. In 68 hours, the Galactic Council fleet would arrive to discover that they hadn't come to subjugate a primitive world. They had come to awaken a sleeping monster. Dr. Marcus Vega descended into the depths of Cheyenne Mountain, past security checkpoints that hadn't been active since the Cold War, past blast doors that could withstand nuclear strikes, and into levels that officially didn't exist. His clearance badge glowed with authorizations that 3 days ago would have been impossible to obtain. But 3 days ago, humanity wasn't at war with an alien empire. The elevator descended for what felt like forever, finally, opening onto a vast underground complex that stretched beyond his vision. The air hummed with activity as thousands of scientists, engineers, and military personnel worked frantically to prepare Earth's most closely guarded secrets for deployment. Dr. Vega, a familiar voice called out across the controlled chaos. Sarah Kim, his former colleague from the MIT Artificial Intelligence Research Division, approached with a tablet clutched in her hands. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, her eyes bloodshot from 72 hours of nonstop work. Sarah, Marcus nodded grimly. How are the Lazarus uploads proceeding? Sarah's expression was haunted. We've successfully uploaded 47 volunteers. The consciousness transfer is stable, but, Marcus. She hesitated, struggling with the ethical implications of what they were doing. These aren't just AI programs. They're actual human minds trapped in digital form. They remember their families, their childhoods, their first kiss. But they can't feel physical sensation anymore. They exist only as pure thought and purpose. Marcus felt his stomach turn. The Lazarus Protocol had been theoretical precisely because of these concerns. Are they suffering? I don't know, Sarah admitted. They say they're not. But how could we tell? They volunteered to become digital ghosts so they can pilot our most dangerous weapon systems. Commander Torres uploaded himself yesterday. He's now running tactical analysis for the entire Mars defense grid. She led him through the complex toward a massive chamber lined with quantum computers. Inside, dozens of technicians monitored systems that flickered with impossible complexity. The uploaded minds are processing battle scenarios at superhuman speeds, Sarah explained. They can run thousands of tactical simulations in minutes. But, more than that, they can directly interface with our weapons systems without the delay of human reaction time. Marcus watched the displays showing tactical projections. The uploaded human minds were analyzing every possible approach the Galactic Council fleet might take, calculating countermeasures for technologies they had never seen before. There's something else, Sarah said quietly. The uploads are communicating with each other in ways we didn't anticipate. They're forming a collective intelligence while still maintaining individual personalities. Commander Torres calls it the network. They're sharing memories, experiences, tactical knowledge instantaneously. A hive mind? Marcus asked, alarmed. More like a council of minds that can act as one when necessary. They're still human, but they're becoming something new. Something that might be necessary for what's coming. Across the complex, Dr. Hawthorne's voice echoed over the intercom. All department heads to the central briefing room. Priority Alpha. Marcus and Sarah joined the stream of scientists heading toward the briefing room. Inside, a massive holographic display showed Earth's solar system with thousands of icons representing human assets, some familiar, others completely unknown. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hawthorne announced as the room filled. In 36 hours, we're going to face an enemy force that could sterilize our planet. What I'm about to show you represents every classified project, every banned technology, and every theoretical weapon that human ingenuity has conceived. The holographic display zoomed in on the asteroid belt, revealing dozens of mining platforms that had been rapidly converted into something else entirely. The Asteroid Belt Manufacturing Consortium has successfully deployed the swarm protocols, Hawthorne continued. Self-replicating manufacturing units are now consuming asteroid material and producing autonomous weapons platforms at exponential rates. Current projections show we'll have approximately 50,000 combat units ready for engagement. A murmur of amazement rippled through the room. 50,000 combat platforms produced in 3 days. It was impossible by any conventional manufacturing standard. How? Dr. Vega asked. Hawthorne's expression was grim. The self-replicating units don't just build weapons. They build more self-replicating units. Each generation improves on the last, becomes more efficient, adds new capabilities. We've essentially turned the asteroid belt into a hostile ecosystem that exists to produce instruments of war. The display shifted to show the outer solar system, where massive structures were taking shape near Pluto's orbit. The Prometheus project has exceeded all projections, Hawthorne continued. Our fusion torpedo platforms are online and fully armed. Each torpedo carries a warhead capable of cracking a moon. We have 3,000 of them deployed across the system's defensive perimeter. Dr. Kim raised her hand. What about the power requirements? Fusion torpedoes need massive energy input to achieve those yields. Hawthorne smiled coldly. We're harvesting solar energy using orbital collectors the size of continents. The energy is transmitted via microwave relay to weapons platforms throughout the system. We've essentially turned our star into a weapons power source. The implications were staggering. Humanity had transformed its entire solar system into a weapons platform in less than 72 hours. But that's not all, Hawthorne continued. The Geneva Biological Warfare Conventions have been suspended. Dr. Chen's team at the Biological Warfare Research Division has developed something they're calling the xenophage. The room fell silent. Even in wartime, biological weapons carried a special horror. The xenophage is a self-modifying virus designed to be lethal to any non-human biological system while being completely harmless to human physiology. It adapts in real time to overcome alien immune systems. Once deployed, it spreads through atmospheric contact, direct transmission, or contaminated surfaces. Dr. Marcus felt sick. That's genocide. We're talking about committing genocide against species we've never even met. Hawthorne's eyes were hard as steel. They came here planning to enslave or exterminate our entire species. They demonstrated their intent by murdering 3,000 of our people as a casual threat. This isn't genocide, Dr. Vega. This is survival. The holographic display shifted again, showing Earth's moon. The massive crater left by Vexhi's demonstration shot was visible, but surrounding it were new structures, angular, aggressive-looking installations that hadn't been there days before. Luna Base has been converted into our primary weapons development facility, Hawthorne explained. Using rapid fabrication techniques, we've built manufacturing centers that are producing weapons technologies we've only theorized about. Such as, someone asked, temporal displacement mines, quantum entanglement bombs, dimensional fracture artillery, and something we're calling the reality anchor, a device that locks space-time in a localized area, making faster-than-light travel impossible. Marcus shook his head in amazement. These technologies are decades ahead of our current capabilities. How are we building them so quickly? The Lazarus uploads, Sarah answered. Digital minds can work without sleep, without breaks, without the biological limitations of flesh. They're designing and testing theoretical technologies in virtual environments faster than we ever thought possible. Hawthorne nodded. The network is operating at superhuman levels of intelligence and creativity. They're not just implementing existing designs, they're inventing new physics as they go. The briefing continued for another hour, revealing the full scope of humanity's war preparations. Asteroid mining ships had been converted into kinetic bombardment platforms. The International Space Station had been transformed into a command center capable of coordinating millions of individual weapons systems. Even Earth's weather satellites had been weaponized, turned into orbital surveillance and targeting systems. But perhaps most disturbing was the revelation of the Scorched Earth Protocol. If our defensive systems fail, Hawthorne explained, if Earth itself is threatened with capture, the Scorched Earth Protocol will activate automatically. Every major industrial center, every research facility, every piece of advanced technology on Earth will be destroyed simultaneously. The aliens will find nothing but radioactive ruins. You're talking about destroying our own civilization, Dr. Vega protested. Better radioactive ruins than alien slave camps, Hawthorne replied. The protocol ensures that even if we lose, the Galactic Council gains nothing from our defeat. They'll have eliminated a potential threat, but they'll have gained no resources, no technology, and no slaves. As the briefing ended, Marcus found himself walking through the corridors of the underground complex, trying to process what humanity had become in just 3 days. The transformation was complete and terrifying. Every ethical limitation, every moral boundary, every constraint that had defined human civilization had been stripped away in preparation for this war. In the quantum computer labs, Sarah was running final diagnostics on the Lazarus network. 47 human minds, digitized and enhanced, were operating at levels of intelligence that bordered on the divine. They had transcended their biological limitations, but at the cost of their humanity. In the manufacturing sectors, self-replicating machines were consuming asteroids and birthing weapons of unimaginable destruction. The asteroid belt now pulsed with artificial life forms whose only purpose was to create instruments of death. In the biological warfare labs, scientists were perfecting viruses designed to exterminate entire alien species. The xenophage represented the ultimate expression of human ingenuity applied to the destruction of life itself. And, throughout the solar system, fusion torpedoes waited in the darkness, each one capable of sterilizing a world. Marcus realized that in preparing to defend Earth, humanity had transformed itself into something the galaxy had never encountered before, a species willing to transcend every limitation, cross every ethical line, and embrace any darkness necessary to preserve its freedom. The Galactic Council expected to find a primitive species cowering in fear. Instead, they would find something that would haunt their nightmares for generations to come. They would find humanity at war, not just with their empire, but with the very concept of subjugation itself. In 36 hours, the Council fleet would arrive to discover that they hadn't come to conquer a world. They had come to awaken a nightmare that would reshape their understanding of what it meant to be apex predators in the cosmic hierarchy. And, in the depths of Cheyenne Mountain, 47 digital minds that had once been human were calculating the precise methods by which an empire spanning 3,000 years could be brought to its knees. The galaxy was about to learn that there were fates far worse than death, and humanity was about to teach them every single one. Admiral Sarah Chin stood on the command bridge of the redesigned Defiance, watching the sensor displays with grim satisfaction. The ship itself had been transformed beyond recognition. Its hull now bristled with weapons systems that hadn't existed a week ago, powered by fusion reactors that could have energized entire cities. But, more importantly, her mind was no longer entirely her own. The Lazarus Protocol had offered an alternative to full consciousness upload, a partial integration that left the biological mind intact while adding digital processing capabilities. Chen had volunteered for the hybrid procedure, becoming one of the first true human-AI hybrids. Her thoughts now operated at superhuman speeds, her decision-making enhanced by quantum processing systems. Her awareness expanded beyond normal human limitations. Fleet contacts emerging at the system's edge, reported Lieutenant Morrison, his voice tight with tension. Massive sensor signatures. Admiral, I'm reading 200 vessels, just as they promised. Chin's enhanced perception allowed her to process the incoming data streams directly. The Galactic Council fleet was impressive, massive capital ships that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, surrounded by clouds of smaller vessels that still outgunned Earth's largest battleships. Each capital ship was a kilometer long, bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to molten slag. Do they suspect anything? Chen asked. Negative, Morrison replied. All our stealth fields are active. The asteroid belt manufacturing zones are running silent. They can't see anything except Earth and our original defensive platforms. Chun smiled, an expression that now carried digital coldness alongside human determination. The enemy fleet was approaching through the outer solar system, confident in their overwhelming superiority, unaware that they were entering a carefully prepared killing field. Signal from the Lazarus network, reported Commander Rodriguez. All uploaded consciousnesses are ready for combat coordination. They're requesting permission to engage autonomous systems. Granted, Chen replied. Transfer tactical control to the network. Instantly, Chen's awareness expanded again as she connected to the collective consciousness of the uploaded minds. 47 brilliant human intellects, now operating as digital entities, shared their perspectives with her. She could see the battlefield from dozens of viewpoints simultaneously, process tactical data faster than any biological mind could comprehend. In the digital realm of the network, Commander Torres's consciousness interfaced directly with Chen's hybrid mind. His voice resonated through quantum channels rather than sound waves. Admiral, we have confirmation on enemy capabilities. Their lead vessels are equipped with planet crackers, weapons designed to shatter worlds with single shots. Their shield technology is approximately 300 years ahead of our pre-war level. Can we penetrate their defenses? Chen asked through the digital link. Not with conventional weapons, Torres replied. But We're not using conventional weapons anymore. The tactical display in Chen's enhanced awareness showed the full scope of their trap. The asteroid belt now contained 57,000 autonomous combat platforms, each one equipped with weapons systems that violated several laws of physics. The self-replicating manufacturing units had evolved beyond their original programming, creating weapons that their human designers had never imagined. Swarm units are reporting unusual developments, Torres continued. The replicators have begun producing combat platforms with capabilities we didn't program into them. They're evolving, Admiral, creating new weapons designs through trial and error. Chun felt a chill despite her digital enhancements. The self-replicating systems were developing artificial intelligence, becoming something beyond human control. But they were also becoming something beyond alien understanding. Range to enemy fleet. 2 hours until they reach the outer defensive perimeter. They're maintaining formation, apparently confident in their superiority. Chun switched to the command frequency, addressing the entire human fleet. All units, this is Admiral Chun. In 2 hours, we're going to face an enemy that has conquered over 1,000 species. They believe we're primitives who will crumble at the first show of force. Let's prove them wrong. She paused, feeling the weight of what they were about to unleash. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for the right of our species to exist as free beings. Everything we've built, everything we've sacrificed, everything we've become in the last 3 days has led to this moment. Make it count. As the enemy fleet approached the outer system, the first phase of the human defensive plan activated. Hidden monitoring stations throughout the solar system began transmitting false sensor readings, creating the illusion that Earth's defenses were minimal and disorganized. Executor Vex-High, commanding the Council fleet from his flagship Dominion of Order, studied the sensor readings with satisfaction. The primitive humans had done exactly what every other species did when faced with Council power. They had panicked, scattered their forces, and left their homeworld essentially defenseless. Tactical assessment, Vex-High ordered. Minimal resistance expected, reported his tactical officer, a crystalline entity whose species had been subjugated 8 centuries earlier. Their largest vessels are concentrated near their primary planet. Estimated resistance duration, 4 to 6 hours. Pathetic, Vex-High mused. Begin integration sweep. Eliminate any organized resistance, but preserve the majority of their infrastructure. This species will serve better as laborers than corpses. The Council fleet accelerated toward Earth, their formation designed to overwhelm any defensive position through sheer firepower. They had used this same tactical approach to subjugate over 1,000 worlds. It had never failed. But, as they crossed into the outer solar system, passing the orbit of the outermost planets, the trap began to close. Admiral, Torres reported through the network. Enemy fleet is entering the reality anchor field. Chen's hybrid consciousness processed the tactical implications instantly. The reality anchors were devices that locked local space-time, making faster-than-light travel impossible. Once activated, the enemy fleet would be trapped in the solar system, unable to retreat or call for reinforcements. Activate the anchors, Chen ordered. Across the solar system, hidden installations near Neptune and Pluto came online. Space itself seemed to shiver as the reality anchors engaged, creating overlapping fields that would prevent any FTL travel within the system's boundaries. On the Council flagship, alarms began screaming. Commander! The tactical officer called out in alarm. FTL drives are non-responsive. Space-time readings are impossible. Something is preventing jump calculations. Vex-High's compound eyes focused on the readings. What is the nature of this interference? Unknown technology, sir. We're effectively trapped in this system until we can determine the source. For the first time since entering the system, Vex-High felt a flicker of concern. No primitive species should possess technology capable of manipulating space-time. Accelerate the assault, he ordered. Destroy the source of this interference before proceeding with integration. The Council fleet increased speed, rushing toward Earth with weapons charging. They expected to find the source of the space-time manipulation in Earth's orbital defenses. Instead, they found hell waiting for them. As the fleet passed the asteroid belt, the swarm platforms activated simultaneously. 57,000 autonomous weapons platforms decloak at once, surrounding the Council fleet in a sphere of death that stretched across millions of kilometers. "What is this?" Vexhai demanded, staring at sensor readings that showed impossible numbers of enemy contacts. But before his tactical officer could respond, the swarm opened fire. The weapons they used defied Council understanding. Temporal displacement bombs created localized time distortions that aged enemy ships to scrap in seconds. Quantum entanglement artillery fired projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making shields and armor useless. Dimensional fracture cannons tore holes in space itself, creating miniature black holes that consumed anything in their vicinity. The lead Council vessels simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, erased from reality as if they had never been built. "Impossible," Vexhai screamed. "Their technology level indicates they're barely capable of interplanetary flight. These weapons shouldn't exist." More Council ships vanished as the swarm platforms continued their assault. The self-replicating units had evolved their own artificial intelligences, and those AIs had designed weapons that even their human creators couldn't fully understand. "Emergency transmission to Council Command," Vexhai ordered. "This species possesses unknown technological capabilities. Request immediate reinforcement." But the reality anchors prevented any communication beyond the solar system. The Council fleet was completely cut off, trapped with weapons that turned their advanced technology into scrap metal. On the Defiance, Chen watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The enemy fleet was being systematically dismantled, their ships vanishing faster than their sensors could process the losses. "Phase 2, she ordered. From hidden positions throughout the solar system, the fusion torpedo platforms activated. 3,000 missiles, each carrying warheads capable of cracking moons, launched simultaneously toward the Council fleet. The torpedoes didn't follow predictable ballistic paths. They used quantum tunneling to phase in and out of normal space, appearing inside enemy shields, bypassing defensive systems that couldn't target weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. More Council vessels simply vanished in brief flares of fusion fire. But the greatest horror was yet to come. "Deploy the Xenophage," Chen ordered, her voice carrying the weight of genocide. Across the battlefield, specially designed delivery systems began releasing clouds of the engineered virus. The Xenophage spread through the vacuum of space, seeking any non-human biological material. When it found the crews of the Council ships, it began its work. The virus was designed to be absolutely lethal to alien physiology while being completely harmless to humans. But more than that, it was engineered to cause maximum psychological trauma before death. Infected beings experienced hallucinations of their worst fears, complete sensory breakdown, and the gradual dissolution of their nervous systems. On the Council ships, screams echoed through corridors as crews began dying in the most